Ladies and gentlemen, 2003 BMW M3, the E46 generation. This is the 2003.5 model year because it's the post LCI. It's powered by a 3.2 liter inline six. That's the S54 engine, making 333 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque. We've got strut front, multi-link rear. And since it's an M3, no surprise, we got Apex wheels. Wrapped in Extreme Contact Sport 02s, it's a 265 section width all the way around, square setup. Now this car has a long and storied history. Apparently 11 prior registered owners and 2 not registered owners. The current owner, Jack, was telling me that he had to give this car a lot of TLC to get it back into proper condition. The subframe was totally fucked. Fixed that. The big three, the subframe, the VANOS, and the rod bearings, he did himself. So now it should be all right. We got JRZ coilovers. And he's got the dampers near the softest setting. Stock power, stock tune. Interesting BMW M themed trim pieces here with a splatter paint look. I think that's neat. And she comes to life. Gotta love the chunky M wheels, although this looks like it is aftermarket, or at least this part is reupholstered. Now, full mod list in the description as always. What you need to know is the coilovers, stock power now, and he did essentially poly everything. A lot of bushings and mounts have been redone. And with that out of the way, let's see how she drives. Oh yeah, the owner was saying that this has been, all right, that's, all right, cool, I think we're good now. All right, so we're gonna put this into sport mode, which just changes the throttle mapping, really. And we've driven some other M3s on the channel before. I love the E46. It's a great platform, actually my favorite of the M3s. In sport mode, it makes heel toe a lot easier because you need less of a jab of the throttle. But I feel like the initial travel of the throttle, it goes from like 0 to 30% throttle input. You can't really get the same that same granularity early on. I actually don't like sport mode because even when you're upshifting and getting back on the throttle, it's like too sudden. So let's turn off sport mode, but we'll engage DSC. 3,400-ish pounds, 333 horsepower. It feels slower than I was expecting, if I'm being honest. The car also feels a little bit more tired. I drove a really pristine example a few months back, and I think I was just really lucky in driving such a gorgeous example. This one, higher mileage. Also, as the owner has said, he called it a rattly shitbox. I wouldn't go that far. He's done a great job restoring it and putting things back as they should be. But yeah, you can feel the chassis flex a little bit. You can hear the rattles. The engine doesn't quite sound it's not as smooth as you would expect a BMW inline six to be. I do love that the E46 is communicative. The chassis is still light in comparison to more modern M3s. The thing that possibly surprises me the most, though, is that it has hydraulic steering, and if you see my other videos, the same thought process there, which is that you would expect with hydraulic steering it would be teeming with feedback, brilliant steering, but it's kind of light, and you don't get nearly as much feedback as you would want, especially from a car from the early 2000s, right? So a bit surprising. The manual transmission, the throws, kind of long. You still have a little bit of that rubberiness, not as bad as more modern BMWs. The chassis itself, you can feel it flex and hear the creaks, and I don't know why this guy's kind of in the double yellows. Initial brake travel, I'm not getting much. Gotta get into it a bit to start feeling it bite. Overall, the E46 is still my favorite M3, but you gotta keep in mind the examples that you're driving, right? So this example, a little bit more tired, it's definitely seen better days, even though the owner has definitely given it some much needed TLC. And despite the mods, normally the front end on these E46s is super sharp and responsive, but here I'm getting like a tiny bit of play, not as... I remember the first time I drove an E46, it really surprised me how sharp it was. I remember thinking, I couldn't even believe that was stock. But again, driving and reviewing different examples of the same car with different mods and different histories, you can actually get a substantially different driving experience, right? So I still love the chassis and the platform. I think it is such a beautiful place to start, and even stock, actually, it drives really well. It drives a lot better than you would expect a stock vehicle from the early 2000s. I think value-wise, you get a lot of car for the money on the used market with these, as long as you address those big three. But this kind of highlights the importance of getting an example that doesn't have too many issues, because that can really influence the driving experience, the sharpness of the front end, how, you know, tight everything's feeling, and how responsive the steering is, and so on and so forth. My friends, let me know what you think of this example of the E46 M3. Big thanks to Jack, the owner, for letting me review his car. Big thanks to Fenton Sun from the Zygreen YouTube channel for making this review possible. If you want your car reviewed, visit us on JabalAndCars.com, fill out the form on the homepage. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in the next one.